How you doing,
All
bro?
right. Great. How are you, Charles?
Beautiful, man. Beautiful, beautiful day here in New York City. Where are you right now?
I'm in Vancouver. It's beautiful here too. It's a beautiful city out here.
I like that. I like that. Cool, man. Well, congratulations on the film, man. How's it feel? Release day.
Yesterday I walked around after work, walked to a theater across the street to kind of see, the theaters were, packed for the late nights, like screening, midnight screening. And it was already cool, man. It was cool to like bump into a few people that, got to see it and they really enjoyed it. And, just to get that intimate reaction and have a conversation. It's like, yeah, that was like almost more impactful and memorable than like the premieres because those are so fast and furious. It's like all these lights and you're talking to a bunch of people that probably don't even care about what you're saying. Really, they're just there,
You're just waiting to get
right?
the selfie or the photo of you on the red
Yeah,
carpet. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh, nice, man. Well, we haven't talked before, actually, virtually even. So, yeah, just I'll first of all express, what a fan I am of your character and the work that you
Oh,
already
thank you.
done with the franchise and other, work, gang related and all that stuff. So, yeah, obviously excited to chat with you. I'd love to just kind of start off with what playing this character Han means to you.
Sure. Um, It means so much, Charles. It's like the Hollywood dream as a kid, as a dreamer of like participating in, magic land of the Hollywood, cinema, right? So to be able to play a character that in many ways like parallels like a superhero character in a Marvel film or Marvel franchise, to be part of a franchise, right? And then, through a character and a franchise, being able to like impact people around the world. Like we're not saving cancer, Charles. It's a fun action flick, right? With cars, right? But dude, it's like I feel like, the shoes that I get to walk in life, and people feel like, they grew up with us, Charles. It's like so weird, right? It's like they look at me and they're like, Han, or Ham, or whatever they're calling me.
Right.
They feel like they know me, and there's something on just the human level is like after you kind of get over the idea of like what celebrity or fame is, you're like, is this what purpose in life can give you through fame or through celebrities? Like you can truly like impact people's like way of how they perceive someone that even looks like me, right? It's like that on the most just fundamental level, Charles, is like, wow, I get to be part of something like positive in terms of like perception, idea
Yes.
of what do you represent, Charles, right? It's like I only see one version of you on TV or in the movies, Charles. I'm like, do all white men with nicely groomed hair, are they this way? Do they have these stereotypes, right? So to be able to play a character that, that represents something more three-dimensional, that can fall in love, lose love, still
Yeah.
cool as shit, love snacks, all that stuff, has nice hair,
Yes.
right? So,
Exactly.
right, to be a part of something like that, it's changed my life, and it's like purpose, Charles, right? It's like at the end of the day, we got to have it. And then who knew that you're going to get it through like, a character from Fast and Furious? Yeah. So,
No, absolutely, man. I think I really enjoyed the fact that, your character makes an entry in Tokyo Drift because, getting away from the main cast that kicked things off, you guys had space to develop your identity, who you were, and you had your own world that we were being pulled into. I loved that movie, man. I know a lot of people did. And obviously, drifting became a part of the zeitgeist that if it wasn't before, as far as the car enthusiasts, what was it about that movie that you can remember looking back now? Obviously, so many films ahead at this point, but that experience, that visceral experience of being around there, that world, those colors, those cars, so special, so unique.
so unique, and at the time you're right. We had, this like freedom to kind of do whatever we wanted to because, I think the movie was dismissed and we were destined for like deep straight to DVD, right? So it was like, lower budget. None of the original cast was there. So fortunately, Justin Lin, who directed the film, He and I worked together on Better Luck Tomorrow, and really even built what Han like became, right? In the independent movie that we started together. And so his desire to like respect the car community, right, was very like up front and center. It's like, hey, the cars are also stars in the movie. Like, we gotta like make sure we represent that well. If like we're in Tokyo, we can't have a bunch of Dodge Chargers like as taxi cabs, right? It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
So and
Absolutely.
then fortunately we had like just great people come on board. It was like something in the air wanted drifting to be represented properly, right? So, the cool thing is like when, the movie came out, we didn't get much of these type of reactions that I'm getting from you. Oh, oops, oh shit, Charles. Like for someone who said, I love that film, it wasn't like that. It was like, yeah, that's not Fast and Furious. What is this film? And then years later, like your generation and, the kids today, they're like, drifting is part of like American, like, car culture today. It's weird. Like you can go to Minnesota and they have like drift events, right? So it's like I'm serious. Like Chicago's big on drifting. It's like, and you think like it's gonna be a bunch of Asian kids. Nah, man, they're all like white dudes, right? White guys, African Americans, right? It's just so diverse and very middle working class, right? So it's become very American. It's like weird where you're like, this is an American pastime, for good or for not. It's like, if it's tracked and sanctioned and controlled, it's a great hobby to be a part of, great community if you find the right guys that, care about the craft or the artistry behind drifting, right? So um it's the timing is like amazing. That's why I feel like there's like an OG element because I walk down the street and all these kids are like, "Oh, you inspired me to, get my first S13," and I was like, "Uh huh." And what else did I inspire you to do? It's like, and have like five speeding tickets, right? Spend 2 days in jail.
Yeah.
It's because of you, Han. But
No, absolutely.
yeah, but super cool to be a part of, right? And yeah, it's amazing how that movie people say has impacted their car DNA, right? Like the cars they love today are influenced by those cars of the 80s and the 90s that we profiled in that film, right?
Yeah, and I think like you said, that the look that Justin and you guys all created was so unique. And again, it was like you're being plopped into a video game that you want to be a part of. And again, that drift, like obviously for a franchise that has been built around doing things with cars that seems impossible, that seems to defy all rules of, gravity, etc. Like that drifting would be a major part of that franchise just felt natural. So the fact that you guys were able to spotlight that and be the kickoff of kind
Mhm.
of that immersion of that fast franchise into drifting, you know, I and another you mentioned some of the great people that got involved with the franchise during that film. I had the pleasure, and I have had the pleasure several times to talk to Dennis McCarthy,
Yeah,
the car
my boy.
coordinator, the guru
Yeah.
behind all these vehicles, working with the directors and producers, of course, and you guys as a cast to kind of figure out the right vehicles for each, cast member. you know, what was it like working with him that early times? I'd love to just he's also expressed to me what a car guy you are. So I'd love to hear what it felt like for you to have that ability to drive some things that obviously not many people get to drive. Some of those memories you have of whether it's drift, whether it's Fast and Furious, like those cars that you got to buckle into.
Well, the awesome thing about being a car guy, being part of the franchise, man, it's like you are in Wonderland. You're in Disneyland every day. Anytime I had a break, man, I'd be over at the warehouse where the, picture card guys were building. And to be able to like talk to Dennis and go, hey man, tell me about this, car that Han's driving. Like, what's the specs like, and what's the why? Why are we doing this? Like, it's an Alfa Romeo, man. He needs to be in like JDM. It's like, and then him explaining like their idea, and then the builders that went behind the car, right? It's like for a car dude, like you geek out. Like I hope car guys will appreciate this, but like I went to London and I asked Dennis if I could go see the car to like introduce myself to this Alfa Romeo, and he told me that the guys, the gents in the UK built this particular one because they had to source all of these Alfa Romeos from across the globe because they've rusted out after all these years. That was like that's a 72. So they had to find like 5 to 7 of these cars, and you got to chop them up, you got to modify them, you got to make them into stunt cars, and you got to be able to do all that drifting. And so I got to go and learn and meet all the gentlemen that built this 72 Alfa Romeo GTV, and it was crazy. It's like for me, like I go, yeah, cars are meant to be in your life because I show up and then I start meeting the guys and they're like, yeah, so we had to swap out the twin cam stock motor because it was maybe like 113, 120 on a good day. And it's like, yeah, we needed more of that. And they put a 2.3 EcoBoost, like turbo Ford EcoBoost motor, a modern motor into this car. And it just happened that I had that 2.3 EcoBoost in a Ford Maverick I built because Dennis McCarthy put me in a Ford Maverick in Fast Five in the Brazilian scene. And I got to
Mm.
learn about the history of the Ford Maverick, how it's their Brazilian Camaro, it's their Chevelle, because they couldn't get all these cars into Brazil at that time. You had to be rich. But the Maverick somehow, because it was like the poor man, like, Mustang has a baby with a Pinto type of car in America. But over there, they had this GT model. It was like, it's dope. It's like their like special edition. So I took that platform and I built a car with SEMA and California after the film. And we put this 2.3 EcoBoost motor that Ford sent us the front clip of a Mustang so we could experiment. So we could actually have conversations about this crate motor that was eventually coming out, this 2.3, that eventually became a crate motor that the guys in the UK put in Han's 72 GTV, man, right? And then,
Wow.
yeah, and then that car has Alphaholics. Like Alphaholics is like the singer of Alfa Romeo GTV and Spider, like resto mods in the UK, like dope cars. You can find them on YouTube, and like high level restoration, resto mod builds. I mean, they go full like fuel injection and everything. So we have like their suspension, and their wheels, and we have so many components of their like their parts list on our car. It's kind of cool. And then I bought the car, man. It's in my house,
Yeah,
sitting in
Dennis
my
was saying
garage.
Dennis said he was trying to drive you one of the stock ones, and you were like, nah, bro,
No, why would I
get me
do
the
that?
eco. What are you talking about here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, dude.
exactly.
Yeah, you want the stump car because then it's a story,
Right.
right? And it's like a piece of
Exactly.
art. It's like a sculpture that has been built. Like I now have a piece of history in my life, and I'm sure the car will outlive me. It'll be around, and it's great story to like go. Hey, a movie allows me to really participate in this hobby and have connection to cars, right, in my personal life. But then and then share that into the movie. And in Fast 10, there are two of my cars in that film. So at the beginning, there's a 240Z, a red and black one,
Oh yeah,
Monte
yeah, yeah.
Carlo inspired, right? That is a car that I own that was built by Eric Aguilar. That was then it's called and he goes, hey man, you got any cool cars that we could put in front of the that Toretto house while you guys are having, the barbecue? And I was like, and I sent him pictures like, yo, we just finished this stock 240Z with this
Wow.
East African safari homage. Like, what do you think? He goes, oh, well, pick it up now. And then um, for Daniela's 240Z race that she has with Momoa and Dom, right? And the
Yeah, yeah.
Porsche. That
Mm-hmm.
is based off the Fuguzi, the 73 240Z that Grady built for me and has like a Rocket Bunny body kit and everything. And so they just painted it, yellow. So this, it's like there's all of this like ability to
Interconnectivity.
contribute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, so Dennis like reaches like, hey, what's hot in like, the Tokyo drift scene and stuff. And I'm like, I think what maybe this and this, and we'll share ideas. And, it's just great to have like a partner in crime that like respects your opinion, that, that you can always like call and is an expert at the highest level, right?
Yeah.
So, and has no ego. We can talk about like, hey, does this make sense to you? What about changing this dialogue? And so it's been great as a car guy to be able to be able to contribute in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, and that yeah, the alpha is just so cool,
Dope.
man, and the colors
Yeah.
are so sick, and I absolutely would pick it over that Lambo Gallardo any day. I was like, that
Yeah.
thing looks spunky. It looks like it can get the job done. And I love that you guys have a little ribbing between you and Roman, aka Tyrese.
Yeah.
That's always fun to see the energy there. What about the colors did you love? That kind of calls back, Han vibes too. The
Yeah, you
orange
know
with the
that.
black
So for the car
stripes.
geeks out, yeah, for the car geeks out there, that orange is from House of Colors. It's like a tangerine orange that they have. And House of Colors is like a hot rod, custom paint, company that does high end like builds, right? So,
Yeah.
and their colors are like rich. And when paint used to have lead, and they still do, but like in California, you got to use water-based paint. So the lead paint, the lacquer would have this like rich, creamy element to it, right? So, you know, the Mazda FD-RX-7 and Tokyo Drift, that was House of Color with the Veil side kit. So we just kind of keep trying to duplicate that, and it felt like, all right, the GTV Alpha Mako Orange, like, Alfa Romeo at the time. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any. A lot of them are red,
Yeah.
Italian red and,
Always a
white
red.
and stuff. Right. So, but this felt right, and it was like, painted in that House of Color orange, and then it has to have the black stripes. I'm glad it wasn't chopped up to like, like have big old fender flares and stuff, because as I get older, I don't want to be chopping up these like rare vintage cars. So
There's an
yeah,
appreciation there that you've developed and
yeah.
uh and yeah, I think another thing that I know you're such a fan of the cars and even will watch other movies and look at the cars as someone that's a part of Fast X. What was your favorite car that you didn't drive or your character didn't drive? Maybe you got a chance to check out a little bit.
Remember in Tokyo Drift, Lucas, Sean, he has that 60, it says 67, 68 fastback Mustang with the
Oh yeah.
RB26 motor. That was originally Han's car. That was like something I was like fighting for, because my favorite car is from Bullet, Steve McQueen 68 fastback Mustang, with the forest green, dark green. And I was like, dude, wouldn't it be cool if like this, Asian dude in Japan, Tokyo's driving out in a freaking, Mustang, right, from Bullet?
Yeah,
Like that's like baller shit, right?
that
So it's
is.
like, and then at the last moment, it just, I ended up with the FD, which is fine. It's like dope, like iconic. But that was like, I wonder what the movie would have been like, or the character's vibe would have been like if he rolls up to the high school and picks up Sean in a Mustang,
Yeah.
American Muscle, right? Just like mean looking, just grumbling, right? Just and outruns the Japanese police in the Mustang. Like it's like that'd be sick, right? So
Dude, yeah.
yeah,
No, I like
yeah,
that. Maybe you can do your directing stuff now. Maybe you recut that one, with permission. With permission.
I agree.
Listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Make that
Yeah,
happen.
Tokyo
Just
Mustang
just flip it
nights.
around. Just
Yeah,
flip it around. Yeah, Tokyo
that's right.
Mustang. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever, I know I've gotten the chance to talk to, Jason Momoa a few times. He loves his bikes. Have you connected with any other cast members? Obviously, you're a big car guy and machine guy. Are there any cast members other than yourself that are as invested, or at least, kind of? I'm sure everybody, when you're around something that's that beautiful and that cool, you can't help but just, I don't care if you're a car guy or car girl or not. You're going to be jaw's going to drop when you see some of those Chargers or some of the other supercars. But yeah, have you been able to geek out with anybody else about cars?
Chris, Ludacris,
Yeah,
we just got his star on the Walk of Fame yesterday. I wish I could have
yeah, I
been there,
saw
but
that. Yeah,
yeah, he is a very unique car guy. He still has his Acura Legend. It's a car that means so much to him. There's like a story behind why this car has been in his life for such a long time. It signifies hard work and success and a certain time in his life, right? Where he was like in the crossroads of being Chris Bridges to Ludacris, right? And I love that. That tells you that somebody's a car person. They might not know how to wrench or like, like change a swap a turbo out, right? But then when, we all have our connective tissue with cars, right? There's a story, right? And I think if you're sincere about it, if you're like, I don't know much about this, but my favorite car is a minivan because I got to travel across the country with my dad and we had great experiences. And that's the greatest memories I have with him before he so and so, right? It's like that tells me like, yo, man, you're a car person because the car means something. So because my definition is, you know, it comes from that POV of what I see like as a car person. Chris definitely is into his cars, and because he's an artist, he has like stories behind it, of like why he has these cars in his life. So I really appreciate that. And then, Vin and I got to share, his experience with cars today. Like, he has a Chevelle that's in the garage in that scene with, Dom and Han in Fast 10. And that car is there, there's a purpose behind everything, right? People think, oh, you just stuck a Chevelle in there. Like, so what? No, that car is a car that he and his son are building together slowly, just as a symbol of father and son. His son Vincent, I think, is like 13, big car geek, man. It's like Rayman of cars. It's like, yo, this guy is like savant when it comes to like car knowledge, loves cars, and we can talk about cars all day. And Vin's like, I want to have this shared experience, right? So, the power of YouTube University and power of being Vin Diesel and having people be able to help. He doesn't want somebody to come in and just build it for him and his son. He wants to have that shared garage experience, right? So beautiful, right? It's like
Beautiful.
awesome. He
I
wants
love
like,
that.
life to imitate art with his real son, Vincent. It was a beautiful, beautiful kid. So the thing that people don't realize or know about Vin at all is that he's like probably one of the best dads I've ever met. Like, and you can tell a lot about a person when you meet their kids. And these kids are like angels, right? So, yeah. And then, and everybody else, it's like, because they're professional and they, care about, backstory and origin and mythology of the characters, there's so much resource on a fast movie. Like, like Ramsey and, Natalie and I were talking about like, you gotta get like Ramsey into a cool ass car, right? Something that represents her character. Is it British? Is it like high tech? Is it EV?
Right.
Is it what is it? So I called my friend Rob over at Lotus, and he just came over and dropped off like the new Emira, and then did a full like immersion of like what the company is and what Lotus means to the British people. And Ramsey being British, backstory. I was like, oh, that's fucking perfect, right? They have this like $2 million supercar that's all EV at Lotus that's built in the UK. I go, that's a perfect car for her, right? So, these are cool conversations that I think a lot of like fans geek out on. But yeah, man, it's
I
like,
do.
yeah, so it's pretty cool, right? So
No, it's majorly cool. I think that's one of the things that keeps me coming back to the movies. Like, and I like that you almost encapsulated it perfectly with that, Vin and his son story, because it is, it's these awesome, beautiful cars, but it's about that interconnectivity between the human and the connections you're building with those cars, whether it's a road trip or a road race. Like you're making memories with somebody that's tangible, that's visceral. The way that you have to be present when you're in a car like that, right? Or working on a car like that. You're not watching Netflix, you're not doing, which is all fine to decompress if that's what you need to do. But I think having and inspiring people to have those moments and find something
yeah,
like yourself
connection.
where you're working on you have your garage and you're working on cars. And I'm sure you have a number of, having the ability to make a call like that's got to be amazing. I'm sure you've got a couple people you want to call for other cars. Like, do you have a dream list of other cars to get into possible future fast movies or whatever projects you work on next? I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The list is too long, Charles, and my
Yeah.
wife hates this list, right? She's like, she hates my car. She's like, it's a symbol of like negative, dark times in my life. I'm like, geez, like why? Never home, never home. I'm eating dinner alone, right? And I'm like, geez, man. Yeah, so that list is long, but that's the beauty of these cars is that
Yeah.
they're evergreen. You can keep like finding a new platform, and the more obscure, the better. Like I want something that is just kind of like wacky, but then has like depth and like connection to like me and a story that I could share. So I don't know. I don't know what that car is right now. I'm on like car hiatus. You got to recover.
You got to
It's like
break. Yeah, ebbs and flows.
yeah.
It all comes in that way. Do you find yourself of course, now these days there's been a huge bump in popularity, but motorsports, do you follow any of those? F1, IndyCar, NASCAR?
All of the above.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I don't discriminate when it comes to motorsports, right? The louder the better. Um,
Nice.
but I got to go to a couple of NASCAR events. They came to Southern Cali and got to meet like the race is great. I love all the behind the scene like elements of it, like being there with the crowd and like like all that is great, right? But then to be in the trailers with the pit crew and like the owners and the people who run NASCAR, people who are part of like even concessions, right? And just seeing like the dynamics and the relationships and the friendships like behind that. I was like, yeah, I can dig NASCAR, man, because
Yeah.
NASCAR, I didn't grow up like, watching it, and it has like a bad like rap, but then you go and spend time, you realize, well, man, it's like they had a few bad moments, but there's a lot to like draw from. This works, and it's been working all these like decades because there's some awesome people, right? So
Yeah.
I got to, that's what's the beauty of being Han, is like you get like a garage clicker to everybody's garage. It's like,
Yes.
how awesome is that? That I go, yeah. My wife's like, how was the race? Like, I don't know. Like I hung out in a trailer with one of the guys that changes the wheels on the pit crew, right? And just talked to him for like 2 hours, right? So it's like
That's where the good
that
stuff's
stuff, that
happening.
access is pretty dope, right, Charles?
Dude,
So
epic. I mean, yeah, I'm lucky enough to go to a number of events. I'm going to IndyCar, this coming week at Indy
cool,
500, and then
cool.
F1 in Montreal. So that should be fun.
It's gonna
But
be
yeah,
so fun.
but if I, again, if you if you want to roll roll with and just let me into all those garages, they're gonna let me into a couple. But I feel like maybe you just send me a face mask and I just try to
No,
dress.
no. You look like a
No,
race
but
car driver. Just tell him I'm here to
oh
check my
yeah,
car.
yeah, yeah,
Move
yeah,
out the way. Yeah,
exactly. I'm gonna see
yeah,
the Alfa Romeo team, so I'll
yeah,
definitely be shouting them
yeah.
out. Obviously, the Han inclusion in that, and
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think one of those things that it's funny. Like after you see a movie like Fast X, and the team, everybody just continues to put up consistent work, escalate every single time, always cool machines. I find myself being like, "When's the next one?" And I know it's selfish and it's impossible. And and I know I've seen it early. Like half the world hasn't even had the chance yet. Um, but yeah, it's got to be. Do you find yourself itching to get back in the fast groove as soon as possible, or are you enjoying this part of the process, like you said, walking around, experiencing it with the fans, and kind of getting the feedback of what you guys have done?
I like the work. I like to be on the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the words and ceremony and all that, and like the parade is great, right? But it only merits it if like the work is put in, right? And right now, like I've always, and right now I'm just work centric. I feel like there's little time. I try to enjoy it, Charles. That's why I do go and like walk around. Like yesterday, I walked out all by myself. It's like this like weird moment where I was like walking around. I went to the theater, and the lady, that was checking tickets at the front was like had no idea who I was, and I was like, "Excuse me," and she's like, "Hey, no, we're closed," and I'm like, "No, no, no." And let me just talk to you. And she's like, no. And I was like, please, right? And I'm like, the poster's like literally right behind me. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to flex, but I'm like, she
yeah,
totally doesn't look up. And I was like, can I just talk to you? And Canadians are so polite. Vancouver is
yeah.
so nice. She did walk over and she's like, yes, can I help you? She cracks the door open. I was like, yeah, I was just wondering, did Fast have a screening tonight? She's like, yeah, they did. And I was like, okay, like how'd it go? And she's like, I don't know, haven't heard anything, right? And I was like, okay. And I go, so I guess nothing is better than bad. And she just like gives me this look, like, no, like, yeah, I'm sure it's good, or no, it's great. I'm sure it's great. It's just like, okay. And then she closes the door on me. And then and I walked around, and then that's when I started running into people that had
Right.
seen a screening. And yeah, man, it was like surreal experience to be able to, like sit here and enjoy this part. But again, to answer your question,
Yeah.
yeah, man, yeah, I like being on set. You know, I like that aspect of creating, but it's good to take a break and get some distance and some time away, because then it's sweeter when you do see everybody. Like family reunions, if you have one every weekend, it can get stale, right? They gotta be like once a year or once a decade, right? Then
I love that.
right. Yeah,
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I
yeah.
think yeah, that balance is absolutely important. I know you have a lot of things that you're working on though, obviously the garage and directorial debut and all these things. Yeah, what's kind of the latest grind, or what are the other things that you have coming up that we can look forward to, or just that I should keep posted and in mind of?
Well, I really want to, you know, stick with this directing stuff, Charles. Like, I feel like, yeah, I know why I'm directing. It's like, it's not a, ego based like foundation on why I want to do this. It's not something I need to check off on my bucket list. It's a great place to contribute, man. It's like, as I get older, it's like, I've got the opportunity to work with some amazing human beings in our business, like amazing. Aside from their talent, just great human beings, and setting a tone to be part of this machine that allows and presents like dreams to like become reality, right? Like when someone says, it's my dad's dream for me to be in a movie, or to go to a premiere, I look at that and I go, I could be a part of that. I could make that happen. I could contribute to that beautiful moment, right? And as a director, if that's your foundation, man, you're gonna go into work with like great attitude, and that takes time. It took me years to like figure this stuff out. Like, the world gives you what you want, what you ask for, right? So you have to be careful, right? I think you have to be ready. And, you know, directing is something like, I love storytelling. I love being the first one there, last one to leave. I love collaborating with people that are way more talented than me, right? And then legacy, like a movie is like, our carving in the stone, right? You know, because we're here for this amount of time. And how are we going to be remembered? I don't think people want to remember like Han, but they'll remember when they see the movie, like, what is that symbolize? Or what is the point of that character? Why is he scribbled on the wall, right? Of pop
The
culture or history.
representation as well, I think, just changing
Yeah.
the conversation about that and
Yeah.
people
And I'm
embracing
sure
it.
like
That's a
200 years from
legacy.
now, it won't, people will go, what representation? Why does that even matter?
God
Hopefully,
willing. Yes,
right, Charles? Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think you'd want to direct a Korean film, or have you looked into doing a film in that, out of the country or in the
I
language?
love I love Korean cinema. It's so cool to hear
It's
like,
one of my
man,
favorite.
yeah,
Absolutely.
see?
Yes.
That's nuts, right? That's like nuts. In the span of like 2 decades, they become like, the top liner for conversations of people going, I love Korean cinema. I know Park Jang-wook, and more Korean than I do. And then they start speaking Korean to me, and I just look at them and going, when did this happen? Right. So it's great. And it's like, I would love to work with, Korean filmmakers and Korean actors. And if that's like working with them behind the camera, that's even better. And it's like cool because I think about it, and, there's always this conversation about the difficulty of, actors from foreign lands coming and like, like understanding the system of Hollywood, right? Or it's a different cadence on film set, and being able to be like that bridge and like, really utilizing that talent, and then making it convert over to like American, like, projects as well.
Hmm.
Because sometimes it doesn't convert over. They're like great
True.
in their, native tongue, work, but then you see them in something and you're like, American, and you're like, that doesn't work. You just sound like a
Sometimes, yeah.
foreign Asian dude, right? That's angry, right?
That's
Like, really,
yeah.
right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, so, I look forward to doing that, But as an actor, I don't know, my Korean isn't good enough for me to go to Korean, like go head to head with like, the legends of the industry. And that's where I would love to exist, and the level of work I would like to strive for. So as an actor, I don't know if I have you know, the vernacular, or it needs to be trippingly off the tongue, right? It needs to be fluid, and I have to be able to play different dialects and accents even as a Korean.
My
So
gosh,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn now. My partner's actually Korean, and we have a
Oh, cool.
baby on the way who's We're
Oh,
trying to make sure that,
congrats.
she keeps up with it. It's a little thanks, man. So it's,
Yeah,
been trying to watch a lot of, the cinema too, because I feel like it's a great way for me to learn later in life. I'm like, just need to watch as much as possible. So I was like, selfishly, I was like, "Why don't you make a movie, man? Make me more movies to watch." I'm
yeah,
eating through them pretty quickly.
yeah. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Congratulations, man. That's so awesome. So
Thanks,
awesome.
man.
Mm.
Yeah, man, just a pleasure to chat with you. I'm a huge fan of the work. As I've said multiple times, you guys did an amazing job here. I look forward to the next one, man. And obviously, I'll be staying tuned to whatever things you got coming down the pipeline. And if you're ever in New York City, please let me know. Um, can link up. Obviously, it's nice to hang with people in person, but Zoom is great. I'm enjoying it, man.
Yeah, I
Congratulations.
think.
Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, I think I'll be in New York in a few months for a screening for Shaky Shivers right before our release. Yeah.
Oh,
So
amazing. Let
please, if you
me
can come, that'd be awesome. Yeah.